To the guy in my bedroom, I was 23 years old, female, at that time and a student. I was living alone in a small apartment complex not too far away from my school. I've never liked living alone. I was also afraid of the dark. However, I always felt safe in my little apartment. It only had one way to get in and you needed to unlock two doors to get inside, the main front door to the building and the door to my apartment. I also used to have a few lights on even at night and my laptop was usually playing some movie until I fell asleep. I always locked my door, except this one time. One weekend I was out drinking with my friends and when I was going back home I ended up sharing a taxi with a random guy that was going to the same area as me. We both jumped out of the taxi outside my place and talked for a little while. He was about the same age as me and said he was also a student. He walked me to my front door and we said goodnight and I went inside. Some weeks, maybe a month later, I decided to stay home that weekend. I was just watching some series in bed until I fell asleep. Suddenly I woke up to a voice. I couldn't really hear what the voice was saying, but I could hear it was a man talking. I opened my eyes. The room was dark, but I could see a shadow standing in the doorway to my bedroom. I froze. My adrenaline started pumping. I couldn't scream, I just kept staring at the figure. I thought I must be dreaming, this has to be a nightmare, but I understood quickly my biggest fear had come true. He stopped talking and I asked quietly, "Who are you?" He took a step closer and whispered, "Don't you remember me?" He was clearly drunk, but I suddenly could see it was the same guy I shared a taxi with some weeks ago. I felt some weird feeling of relief that I recognized him, but at the same time I was horrified. My thoughts started spinning. What did he want? Why was he here? I didn't know what to do. There is no place to hide or run to. My first thought was to try to stay calm, so I just asked quietly what he was doing here. "I was thinking about you," he said and continued, "I turned off your lights and closed your laptop." He smiled. I kept looking at him. I was still in my bed, still didn't know what to do. I felt sick of the thought of him walking around my apartment while I was sleeping, but decided that I will continue to stay calm. I asked him how he got into my building. He said that he had been ringing my doorbell but I didn't open, so he tried my neighbor's doorbell and someone opened up for him. He also went into my neighbor's apartment but realized it wasn't mine. He then saw my name at the door and went in. I think he could see the fear in my eyes. He suddenly turned around and said, "I think I should go." He stumbled out and I went after him. Right before he left he said, "You should really lock your door." I shut the door in his face and locked it. I went back to bed and cried. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I never called the police, but I told my friends the next day. The following month someone would ring my doorbell every now and then in the middle of night. I would get an anxiety attack every time. I never opened up, but I had a feeling it could be him. I never saw the guy again. I'm so relieved nothing happened at night, and from this day I always double check that I have locked. I also removed my name from the door. So to this guy, let's not meet again. My brother saw a ghost as a kid. 2 decades later, I realized what he actually saw. I was about 7 years old, my brother about 10. It was well past our bedtime when our mom woke up off the couch to put us to bed. Our dad worked construction out of town back then, so it was often just us three at the house for weeks at a time. Up the stairs and to the immediate right was our parents' bedroom. Going left put you in the middle of a hallway. Taking another left down that hallway led to my brother's room. The opposite end was my room, which was also across the hall from our upstairs bathroom. At either end of the hallway are window doors we always kept locked and rarely used. The door on my end led to a balcony overlooking our front yard, and the door on my brother's end opened to our back porch. The house kinda leans into a small hill. My brother and mom both had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I only knew this because I was always a light sleeper and they just couldn't help flushing with the door wide open. This night, however, my brother stopped on his way to his room and came back towards the bathroom. "I'm gonna try to pee before I go to bed." The past few nights I've been too afraid to walk to the bathroom. I keep seeing a man wearing stripes at the end of the hallway. I don't know if my mom wrote it off as my brother telling ghost stories to try to scare me or if she was already half asleep and didn't catch it. But she didn't react at all to my brother's confession. I, on the other hand, was terrified by it. The fear of seeing a ghost like that at the end of the hallway or through the windows is the reason I started running from the stairs to my bedroom at night. Years later, when I was about 18, my mom and I were having a conversation in her car about a dog we had for a very short time when I was little. We were sharing stories about Max's tendency towards destroying my shoes and other unruly behaviors when my mom blurted out, "Do you remember that time I opened the front door for the cops and Max ran inside to the kitchen and started tearing open that big bag of dog food we had?" This really caught me by surprise, because in all the years I lived in that house we never once called the cops, gun owner family in a quiet, rural WV neighborhood, etc. I asked her what she was talking about and she looked equally surprised as if she had just revealed something by accident. "Oh, that's right. I never told you because you were too young at the time. One night, I woke up hearing noises outside my window and when I looked I saw a man staring into my bedroom." She went on to describe how turning on the lights caused him to take off running and how she grabbed my dad's pistol before calling the cops. I can't remember all the details I gave them when they showed up. Tall white male, wearing a striped shirt and jeans, short dark hair, something like that. They said it matched the description of a man they were looking for in the area. It turns out he had escaped from jail on a murder charge. Now, I know it sounds so obvious hearing those two stories back to back, but it wasn't until a few years ago, in my mid-20s, that I pieced together that my brother had unknowingly warned us about a murderer who spent multiple nights casing our home. Man on train decides he doesn't like how I sit, tries to intimidate me. This happened to me about a month ago but it still boggles me. 2 points of background to make this story make sense. 1. I live in Tokyo and commute via those famously crazy crowded trains daily. There exists on them this kind of unspoken agreement that everyone works together to make this suck as little as possible. People for the most part hold their backpacks in front of them, men don't manspread etc. But that's when the trains are full. About 2 stops before mine, the train goes from sardine can to everyone on this train could lay on the seats and have room left over. So usually I can sit down at this point. 2. I'm not a Japanese woman. Very obviously so, even when I'm in my white dress shirt and pencil skirt like all the other office drones. I'm often the only obviously non-Japanese woman on my train in the morning. But despite my appearance, I'm fluent in Japanese, so one day I sit down when the train empties out. Headphones in, mobile game going, ready to enjoy the 10 minutes of sitting I get on my hour commute. I'm sitting with my legs crossed, but there's maybe 10 people in the whole car so I'm not in anyone's way. I'm tuned out when all of a sudden a hand reaches out and grabs my bare knee. I'm in a skirt. I of course jolt straight out of my skin, rip out my headphones and look up at the hand's owner. It's some skinny old Japanese dude, 60s. He points at my legs, then at other people on the train, again. A max of 10 in a car that can hold 50 plus easily and probably held about 80 10 minutes ago. In slightly broken English he says, "You must not cross legs." I'm so bewildered by this I start to tell him in Japanese, "The train isn't crowded right now, I'm not in anyone's way but he doesn't like this answer. He starts to reach for my legs again, presumably to uncross my legs himself. I, liking even less of this, summon up my loudest non-scream, "Don't touch me. It's some foreign woman causing trouble, best not to get involved etc. so no one comes over." So while I've made it clear that I will not stand for physical confrontation, this old dude still feels comfortable enough to stand directly in front of me, nearly knee to knee, looming over me while he repeats endlessly, "You must." He did this for at least 5 minutes. I didn't move. I didn't blink or break eye contact. I started plans B through P of how to get off this train at the next stop. Thankfully he gave up before the next stop, shaking his head and calling me a rude bitch in Japanese before wandering off. Still take the same train but haven't seen him since. Let's not meet again, leg police fucker, lest you find out what happens when you loom over a girl at dick punting height.